course, we've had several African Americans on the show on Monday and Tuesday talking about the legacy of President George H.W. Bush. Joining us right now is Dr. William Harvey. He, of course, is the president of Hampton University, where George H.W. Bush spoke there at one of their commencements in 1991, of course, while he was still president. How you doing, Dr. Harvey?
Roland, I'm fine. How are you?
I am doing great. So first and foremost, your thoughts and reflections on President George H.W. Bush. Him and his family were huge supporters of the United Negro College Fund, of course, supporting HBCUs. What do you recall about his visit, giving the commencement speech there at Hampton University in 1991?
Well, let me just tell you that I thought that President George Herbert Walker Bush was an outstanding individual. He was a man that, from my point of view, helped HBCUs more than anybody that I know of in my 41 years. He helped us in so many different ways. For an example, he came and spoke here at Hampton in 1991. And it was a wonderful visit. The amount of money to HBCUs went up from 89 to 1990, over $118 million. He encouraged consortium agreements among HBCUs and research institutions out in the Midwest to try to get HBCUs to do more research. He encouraged and directed that more money be spent on science and STEM fields. So he was just a terrific fellow that supported all of his life black colleges. When he was a student, undergraduate at Yale, he founded, not just being active, but he actually founded the UNCF there. He was always very supportive of HBCUs right up until the time that he passed. I can even say to you, after he left office, during my 25th anniversary here at Hampton, and this is my 41st year now, the MC came to the mic and said that they had a surprise. There was a video tribute to me from him. I knew nothing about it, and I was just as surprised as everybody else. He said some awfully kind things about me, but he was also very humorous, because at the very end, he said to the trustees who were present, Dr. Harvey has worked tirelessly for Hampton and the nation, and said he's due a sabbatical. Why don't you give it to him? Well, that got a big laugh, and then the next day, the trustees did give my wife and me a sabbatical for 9 months down the Hilton Head. What I'm saying is that he was very supportive. I can give you a lot of examples. Let me give you another. During his tenure as president, the then Solicitor General filed a friend of the court brief with supporting the state of Mississippi against the black colleges there. When I found out about that, because I was on the president's advisory board of HBCUs, I sent a note to the chief of staff saying that I'd like to see the president, and he agreed. And I asked the two other presidents to go with me, including Jim Cheek at Howard, and he allowed us to come in to see him. So I said to him that, Mr. President, I know of your support for black colleges, and I was a little surprised that your administration has filed a friend of the court brief for the state of Mississippi. And he says, well, Bill, I don't think that that's true. And he said, in anticipation of your visit, I asked John Sununu, who was there as his chief of staff, and he says, John, is that right? So Mr. Sununu gave him a piece of paper that he let me see where he said that wasn't correct. So he looked at me and said, Bill, I just don't think that that's true. I said, Mr. President, with all due respect, it is true. Well, he got a little upset, and he said, Boynton, he was talking to C. Boynton Gray at the time. He said, find out what the story is and get back to me. And he said, Bill, can you come back at 2 o'clock today? I said, of course, Mr. President. So I went back, and I was ushered into the Oval Office, and when I walked in, he was laughing. He said, Bill, I should have known you knew what you were talking about. He said, but that's being corrected as we speak. We will withdraw that friend of the court brief on the side of the state of Mississippi. These are just one, two of the several things that I could talk about that shows that he supported HBCUs.
Well, we certainly appreciate having you on the show to offer that perspective. And here's the deal: I've had some. I'm looking at some of our comments here on Facebook and Periscope, and YouTube, and people are commenting right now. And let me be clear: I had like one guy, I guess, Ron Ortiz, said, "Who cares about this guy?" The reality is, this was a former president of the United States. Our job is to cover those things that are good, those things that are bad, those things that are indifferent. That's exactly what we do as well. And so it's important for us as a show that speaks to African Americans that talks about George H.W. Bush's legacy as it relates to African Americans, whether it's we had Louis Sullivan on the show, Armstrong Williams on the show, Fred McClure yesterday, but also we've talked about the Willie Horton ad. We've talked about, of course, some other issues as well. And so our job is to cover all those perspectives, and that's why we have you, Dr. Harvey, to give that the personal recollection. And again, I had not heard of that story you just told about his DOJ taking the position in the Mississippi case, and by you mentioning it to him, he then by rescinding that. And so, again, that's also an important part of history that also needs to be told.
Well, Roland, may I say something to your guest that said, who cares about him? I want you to know that I and hundreds of thousands of other people, because he supported historically black colleges and universities. And we're at a time now when we're not getting the kind of support that we ought to get. And here was a president who did support us. So that's why we should care about the hundreds of thousands of young folk that are graduating from our colleges right now. So I can tell you, I care, and I'll tell the truth. The fact is that he did not support the '64 Civil Rights Act. He did say that he made a mistake and that he regretted that. Now, how many of us don't make mistakes? I can tell you that I probably make more than most. But the fact is, what all of us should do when we make a mistake, we should admit it. We should say that we aren't going to do it anymore and move forward. And I think that that's what all of us, that's a mature way of acting. And as you know, Roland, more than I, and I enjoy you when you come to our campus. I enjoy your show because you tell it like it is. Well, we need to tell it like it is and don't sugarcoat it. He helped black colleges, which means he helped young folk. And I'm as pleased as I can be that he did that. I'm pleased that he listened. And in that one instance that I gave, that he reversed the Solicitor General in that regard. So, yeah, there are those that care about black kids and black colleges, and he happened to have been one.
All right, then. Well, Dr. William Harvey, we appreciate it. And I like that backdrop there. You got at Hampton University. See, that's how you do it right there. Always have that branding going.
Well, listen, Roland, you've been here, and we enjoyed you, and I want you to come back. And I'll just say, without blowing any smoke up your pants leg, we enjoy you and your wife, and come back to see us. And you keep on telling it like it is. And let me say this before I sign off, if I can. Mm-hmm. We need more people who will reach across the aisle, because everybody thinks they're right. The left thinks they're right, the right thinks they're right, and the fact is we need to learn to compromise, and we need to make sure that we try to work for the people and try to make this a better life. And as long as we can do that, then I think that that's what all of us should try to do. And that's certainly what I'm going to try to do, and that's what I preach and teach to the young folk here at Hampton.
All right, then, Dr. William Harvey, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. We transition into the holiday season. This is the time when we start thinking about giving and sharing. Sometimes the best gift you can give somebody is an opportunity that could potentially change their lives economically. That's why our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created an investment opportunity for the everyday investor. It involves legal marijuana and crowdfunding. No, we ain't trying to give you weed. We're trying to get you to make money off of weed. Now, we all know that legal marijuana has created one of the fastest growing industries in America, a multi-billion-dollar industry. We also know that crowdfunding makes it easy to be an early investor to get in on an opportunity. It really is a no-brainer. But it gets even better. Transatlantic Real Estate is different, and they have a business model that is simple to understand. They buy land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now, did you hear that? You are investing in the landlord of a licensed marijuana farm in a high-growth market. And for a limited time, you can invest as little as $300 up to $10,000 before the company goes public. Now, Here's some more good news. They've recently extended the offer, which means you still have time if you take action now. Now, keep in mind, you must complete and confirm your application to participate. So be sure to complete the process. Now, look, don't spend all your money over the holidays and end up with empty pockets and buying stuff that you're not going to be able to use a year from now. Instead, get a return on your investment. You can also consider making an investment for someone special. Now, how's that for a holiday gift? Yes, you're welcome. To get started, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get in the game right now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered.